Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is subject of child development and lecture number 15. Today our topic is infancy and cognitive development. The outlines of the lectures are introduction about the main topic, then explanation about the cognitive development, then stages of cognitive development, then development of object performance, then milestone in language development in infancy. Cognitive development given by Jean Piaget. Cognitive development basically focus on the development of children's ways of perceiving and mentally perceiving the world. Here we shall explain that who was Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget was a Swiss psychologist known for his work on child development, and Piaget's 1936 theory of cognitive development and epistemological view are together called genetic epistemology. Piaget placed greater importance on the education of children. Piaget placed, and that due to this importance, he remained as a director of the Intelligence Bureau of Education. So he declared in 1934 that only education is capable of saving our societies from possible collapse, whether violent or gradual. So his theory of child development is studied in pre-service education programs. Educators continue to incorporate constructivist-based strategies. So Piaget created the International Center for Genetic Epistemology in Geneva in 1955, while on the faculty of the University of Geneva, and directed the center until the death in 1980. So the number of collaborations that its founding made possible and their impact ultimately led to their center being preferred to the scholarly literate as Piaget's factory. And where the cognitive development is concerned, so cognitive development means that how children think, how they explore, how they figure things out. So it is the development of knowledge, skills, problem solving and dispositions which help children to think about and understand the world around them. So brain development is the part of cognitive development. And if we see the cognitive development in early childhood, then in early childhood, cognitive development refers to your baby or toddler's mental capacity for problem solving, language acquisitions, learning about objects and the relation between cause and effect. And if we see some examples of cognitive development, then examples may be included talking with our baby and naming commonly used objects, and letting your baby explore, tries and move about, and singing and reading to your baby, exposing your toddlers to book and puzzles, expanding on your child's interest in specific learning activities, answering your child's why questions. Then schemes. Children concept of the world. This is mental structure of the child, like behavior as controlled to the mental organizations called the schemata, sometimes called schema or schemes, that the individual uses to represent the world and designate actions. So Piaget described two processes used by the individuals in its attempt to adopt assimilations and accommodations. And if we see the Piaget's theory, then as per Piaget theory, scheme is a term put forward by the psychologist Jean Piaget, and it refers to the cognitive structure, means pervasive thought patterns that first appear during childhood and help children organize knowledge. So a schema is a cognitive framework or concept that help organize and interpret information. So schemas can be useful because they allow us to take shortcuts in interpreting interpreting the vast amount of information that is available in our environment. However, these mental frameworks are cause us to exclude pertinent information to focus instead only on things that confirm our pre-existing beliefs and ideas. So scammers can contribute to stereotypes and make it difficult to retain new information that does not conform to our established ideas about the world. We can take examples of these scammers that a young child may first develop a scammer for the horse. She knows that horse is large, has hairs, 4 legs, and a tail. So when the little girl encounters a cow for the first time, she might initially call it a horse. So after all, it fits in with her schema for the characteristics of a horse. So it is a large animal that has hair, 4 legs, and a tail. So once she told that this is different animal called a cow, so she will modify her existing schema for the horse and create a new schema for a cow. Now let's imagine that this girl encounters a miniature horse for the first time and mistakenly identifies it as a dog. So her parents explain to her that the animal is actually a very small type of horse. So the little girl must at this time modify her existing schema for horses. She now realizes that while some horses are very large animals, others can be very small. Through her new experiences, her existing schemas are modified and new information is learned. Then the other term is assimilation. Assimilation means incorporation of new events or knowledge into the existing schemes. According to Piaget, there are two processes at work in cognitive development, that is assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation occurs when we modify or change new information to fit into our schemas, means what we already know. So it keeps the new information or experience and adds to what already exists in our mind. So there are different examples of assimilations, like he argued that they actively try to make sense of the world, constantly forming new ideas and experimenting with those ideas. So example of assimilations include a child sees a new type of dog that they have never seen before and immediately points to the animal and says dog. And another examples in history, maybe one of the most obvious example of assimilation is the United States history of absorbing immigrants from different countries. Means from 1890 to 1920, the United States saw an influx of many immigrants from European and Asian countries. So the desire to come to the United States was primarily for economic purposes. The other term is accommodation. Accommodation means this is modification of the existing schemes in order to incorporate new events or knowledge. So accommodation is when we structure or modify and we already know so that new information can fit in better. So this results from problems posed by the environment, and when our perceptions do not fit in with what we know or think. So process of cognitive development that is presented by Wheat and Hummel in 1998. We can consider the examples of accommodations, like accommodations occurs when we change our existing schemas to accommodate new information. So schemas are organized knowledge, help us understand and interpret our world. So then examples of accommodation is modifying your understand of the concept of car to include a specific type of vehicle once you learn about trucks. So when the child encounters a horse, so they might assimilate this information and immediately call animal the dog. And the process of accommodation then allows the child to adopt the existing schema to incorporate the knowledge that some 4-legged animals are horses. Now there are different stages of cognitive development. What are those stages? The first stage is the sensory stage. This is for 2 years of cognitive development. The sensory motor stage is the first stage of your child's life according to Jean Piaget theory of child development. It begins at birth and lasts through age 2. During this period, your little one learns about the world by using their senses to interact with their surroundings. So the sensory motor stage is the first of the 4 stages Piaget uses to define cognitive development. Piaget designated the first 2 years of an infant life as a sensory motor stage. During this period, infants are busy discovering relationships between their bodies and the environment. So different researchers have discovered that infants have relatively well-developed sensory abilities. The child relies on seeing, touching, sucking, feeling, and using their senses to learn things about themselves and the environment. So Piaget called this the sensory motor stage because the early manifestations of the intelligence appears from sensory perceptions and motor activities. So through countless information experiments, infants develop the concept of separate selves. That is, the infant realizes that external world is not an extension of themselves. Infant realize that an object can be moved by hand, and the concept of causality and develop notion of displacement and events. An important discovery during the latter part of the sensory motor stage is the concept of object performance. This stage is usually considered as a trial and error method, in which the simple reflexes, that is from 0 to 1 month. Your newborn baby expands the use of her basic reflexes, the most obvious of which is sucking reflex, and learns to adopt them to different situations to make them more efficient. For example, she adopts her sucking reflex depending on whether the nipple is a breast, bottle, or pacifier. So during Piaget sensory motor stage, birth to 2 years age, infant and toddlers learn by doing, looking, hearing, touching, grasping, and sucking. So the learning process appears to bring with the coordinating movements of the body with incoming sensory data. As infants intentionally attempt to interact with the environment, infants learn that certain actions led to specific consequences. So these experiences are the beginning of the infant's understanding of the cause and effect relationships. So this is dominated by the assimilation of the sources of stimulation into inborn reflexes such as grasping, visual tracking, crying, sucking, and crudely turning the head toward a sound. Then the second one is primary circular reactions, that is from 1 to 4 months of age. This is primarily primary circulation reactions, and this sub-stage involves coordination sensations and new schemas. For example, a child may suck his or her thumb by accident and then later intentionally repeat the actions. So these actions are repeated because the infant finds them pleasurable. So this is characterized by beginning of the ability to coordinate various sensory motor schemes. The infant tends to repeat stimulating actions that first occurred by choice. In terms of assimilations, the child is attempting to assimilate the motor schemes, me moving the hand, into the sensory schemes, looking at it. Goal-directed behavior, the child looks in order to see. Is secondary circular reactions, that is from 4 to 8 months of age. During this substage, the child becomes more focused on the world and begins to intentionally repeat an actions in order to trigger a response in the environment. For example, a child will purposefully pick up a tie in order to put it in his or her mouth. Patterns of activity are repeated because of their effect to the environment. And examples are: the child shakes a rattle to hear a sound. Then coordination of secondary schemes, that is from 8 to 12 months. During this substage, the child starts to show clearly intentional actions. The child may also combine schemas in order to achieve a desired effects. Children begin exploring the environment around them and will often intimate the observed behavior of others. So the understanding of objects also begin during this time, and children begin to recognize certain objects as having specific qualities. For example, a child might realize that rattle will make a sound when shaken. Infants begin to show intentional goal-directed behavior. For example, they may lift a piece of cloth in order to reach a tie. Scheme of picking up a cloth means is coordinated with the scheme of reaching for a tie, means the goal or the end. Then the next stage is tertiary circular reactions, that is from 12 to 18 months. It has a characteristics of budding scientist. Children begin a period of trial and error, experimentations during the fifth substage. For example, a child may try out different sounds or actions as a way of getting attention from the caregivers. Purposeful adaptations of established schemes to specific situations. The next stage is, that is, inventions of new means through mental combinations from 18 to 24 months of age. This serves as the transitory period between the sensory motor development and the development of symbolic thought. Then there is a development of object performance. First of all, the information processing. The intimation of people and events that were encountered or experienced hours, days or weeks in the past. According to Piaget, developing object performance is one of the most important accomplishments at the sensory motor stage of development. Object performance is a child understanding that objects continue to exist even though they can't be seen or heard. Imagine a game of peekaboo. For example, a very young infant will believe that other person or object has actually vanished and will act shocked or startled when the object reappears. So older infants who understand object performance will realize that the person or object continues to exist even when unseen. So this is a classic example of how during this stage an infant's knowledge of the world is limited to his or her sensory perceptions and motor activities, and how behaviors are limited to simple motor response caused by the sensory stimuli. Here is a milestone development in infancy. Approximate age birth, that is, here the child cries and in age of 12 weeks then cries less, smiles when talked to and nodded at, engages in squealing and gurgling sound, sustains cooing for 15 to 20 seconds, and then at the age of 16 weeks, a child responds to human sounds more definitely. He or she turns head searching for the speaker and chuckles occasionally. At the age of 20 weeks, cooing becomes interspersed with consonant-like sounds. Vocalization differs from the sound of mature language. And at the age of 6 months, cooing changes to single-syllable babbling. Common utterances sound sometimes like ma, mo, da, or the. Such type of sounds may be listened by the child. Then at the age of approximately 8 months, patterns of intonations become distinct, and utterances can single emphasis and emotion. And at the age of 10 months, makes efforts to imitate sounds made by the people. At the age of 12 months, words emerge, and many words are understood. 18 months, repertoire of 3 to 50 words, and explosive vocabulary growth, understands nearly everything spoken. At the age of 24 months, naming everything in the environment, and a spontaneous creation of 2-word sentences, clear efforts to communicate. So this is all about this lecture. Office.